Relax, sit down. Coming out of PE town. Got a drink, find a shot. Never mind your liver, get to Gino's spot.
Gino's spot.
Get to Gino's spot.
Gino's spot.
Have a laugh, have a giggle, and exercise your middle. Have a Gino shot.
Gino's shot.
Get to Gino's spot.
Gino's spot.
Get to Gino's spot.
Gino's spot.
Have a laugh, have a giggle, and exercise your middle. Get to Gino's spot.
Gino's spot.
Ladies and gentlemen, the incredible Mr. Colin Law. Welcome to Gino's Spot, Colin. And for the, I mean, I'm wearing, as you can see, I'm wearing my. I just quickly did a quick change before you. I know we've just been speaking beforehand, and I've made the quick change to the show business side.
I'm not casting the Devil Wears Prada at the moment. That's all.
Colin, the incredible, the amazing Colin Law. Welcome, and tell the people what about your illustrious career.
Oh, God, let's try and make it. We're not going to be saintly because that will flop horribly. Okay, so I'll give you the quick one, the quick version.
Yes.
I won't give you a quick one. I said I'll give you the quick one, the quick version. Yeah. Look, it's quite an interesting journey because I think I always knew from wearing my mother's high heels that I wanted to be a showgirl. But my entry into it was quite interesting because in my teenage years, I had a kind of weird coincidence of things. One is I was brought up in particularly my teens in a slightly unhappy household, so I wanted to escape the war zone on the weekends, and also I was bullied at school and really struggled to find my identity as a young man. I guess as a young gay man in the 70s was a problem, and I happened to one day go and see an amateur production, funny enough, of Spider's Web, and realized that this is a place I could be happy in. And then a few months later, at the age of 15, I went and knocked on the doors of Peter Tureen and Shirley Firth's Intimate Theatre in Rissik Street in Johannesburg, and asked if there was a job. And they, lucky coincidence, Shirley Firth really liked me and didn't ask for an ID document, and got a job as an usher. Some would have said an usherette, and as a chocolate seller. Never a chocolate lady, always a chocolate seller. Okay. So and then one day the stage manager had a fight with Peter Tureen and didn't arrive, so I became a stage manager.
Slotted in.
So it was kind of and the most amazing thing, and that's where I guess in those days the power of intense manifestation where it wasn't the thing that we all talk about now. I just dreamed of the Spider's Web of one day being with my tribe, because I knew then that this incredible world. Curiously enough, I never wanted to be an actor. I always wanted to be that plumber, the man that puts the instrument together to put the shows on. And I then worked in stage management until my 21st birthday, when my father gave me princely sum of 5,000 Rand and said, "Son, I've saved hard for this. Please don't waste it." And guess what I did? I invested in my first show. It was called Murder in Mind. And I opened it at the Elizabeth Snedden Theatre in Durban. It was panned. It was
dear.
But I didn't lose all the money. But I lost enough to have lost face. So what was left over, I actually then had to, I was just before this 21st birthday working for Joan Brickell and Louis Burke as a lighting man.
Wow.
And I then had to go back to them to save face and get a job. And at the same time then carried on producing. And to be honest, producing is as I'm sure you are aware because you're closely allied to it, is the most vicariously horrifying, addictive thing, because when you fall unless you're a trust fund baby with no safety net. And it's very easy to have a reserve and then 2 flops, and then you have the bailiffs at the door. So it's not a part of my life that if you ask me, would I replay the last 48 years? I mean, I've been doing this, I guess, for just over 50 years. If you add in adding the ushering, ASMing, running around for Peter Green for 50 Rand a week days. And coming to Port Elizabeth, funny enough.
Already. Okay. Oh, well, we'll talk about that too then.
That career has been very interesting because I wasn't Peter Turin, who, came from substance. I mean, his family.
We had the actor. He was the actor. He was known as
well.
No,
he was no actor. I mean, he just came from a family with some real estate. I think half of Sandy Bay was owned. But he also had partners and good people that put up with him, and he managed. He was in the golden days. My career producing career began a year and a few months after television came to this country, which totally changed us. Totally changed us. There was suddenly now you had a test pattern.
76 and that.
So I mean, I started
around.
producing in 77, and I think I'm grateful for one thing. I'm grateful that I have had failure, because what it did for me was it made me have to, not want to, have to pivot. And also, that old cliche, fall 7, rise 8 times. I had to do it because I had nowhere to go to. I mean, I managed to stay true to my craft, if that's what you want to call it. And I only ever had to, when I lost everything in the 80s once, I had to go and sell, wait for this, branded wine. So in other words, you've got wine bottles and you even sold the right to Mike's Kitchen. It was so humiliating having restaurateurs slam their door. Can you come back after lunchtime? I don't see people without appointment. That I for 2 weeks of my life, I cried so hard that on the last day of doing it, I drank all the samples and I never went back. So out of that, then I had to do other things. I just had to. So I didn't have, whereas other producers like, the late Jonah Louis, like Peter Turin, who's not late, old, but not late.
Yes. Old, yes.
I even opened his My Fair Lady last night, and I call him the Countess of Camps Bay. He looked spectacular at 83.
Gee, was
anyway. So I had to do other things.
They got the Lambda thing there as well. I think
I thank God he's got one thing that is legacy, and that is the drama school.
Great.
Run, and producing some nice kids.
Yes, young,
very white. That's another whole stuff.
Yes,
we can't
old school, I suppose.
We can't run things like drama schools without having black artists. I mean, what is it? Anyway, that's another.
It's another whole story there.
So out of that, I started. I did a couple of my American connections and my overseas connections started really early, and I then got to produce the first tour out of America and opening at the same time as the London production of a play called The Gin Game, which was the Pulitzer Prize of 1979. And out of that, Jessica Tandy and Hume Cronin, who very famous old school American actors, like really old school.
Yes,
they were very vested in the play, and they were too old to tour. And they and the formidable American agent Flora Roberts, who had a demeanor of a bulldog chewing wasps, and she was terrifying because every time I said out loud, she'll boom down the telephone, Colin Law, cease and desist. I said that I love those words. They still make my pupil clench so hard with the end of a Cuban cigar. When I hear those words, cease and desist, I have
cease
PTSD
and
from
desist.
Yeah. So I got to do the Asian productions of the Gin Game with two local actors, with actually a lot of them, Bess Finney and Bill Curry, then John Hussey, and then Valerie Dunlop and Kenneth Hendel, all around Asia. And that sounds little, but it's actually huge because it includes parts of Oceania. So whenever a chance
Asia is the biggest continent.
yeah. So and in those days, it was very colonial. Still, I mean, you go. I used to perform at the Raffles Hotel Theatre, and it was very, very colonial.
We're quite used to colonial down here in the Eastern Cape, Colin.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing that I used to joke with people and say, it's a pity that I'm not the Raffles gone because that gets to get banged 3 times a day. One is allowed to say things like this on your stream. I mean, it doesn't go to Catholic.
There's no rules, no.
So out of that, I fortunately was quite a relationship whore there. Perhaps should have concentrated them more in my own country. And that beginning of that network started the ability to be able to work out of the country. And then, and then in this way, on the journey, I got into all kinds of things. Like I managed to this day, the inventor of anamorphic 3D art. You'll see some of his pictures behind me. Kurt Wenner, who created the art that pops out of the floor. And I, 14 years ago, got to work with him, and I manage him around the world. In fact, we've done huge exhibitions around the world together. So it's from being a chocolate seller, I've managed to cobble together some sort of a career, and been lucky.
Date-wise, you're talking about 70 in the 70s and 80s.
So 77 was my beginning. I mean, the 80s, other than touring to Port Elizabeth very often, much of it is a blur. I can tell you stories of Hester Steckman and Dave Steckman of the Opera House, and Frank Rogaley pinching my bum. And I can tell you, I have this huge fondness for the Phoenix Hotel.
Phoenix, the stage door, my word.
Whites Road and
yes.
possibly positioned dock door at the Opera House. So I've hung on to that, and the weirdest thing is, only thanks to working with Gary Hemmings do I have any frame of reference out of there. I did one thing quite recently in Port Elizabeth with on my own with the formidable Michelle Brown doing the PR, something called Sinatra and Me with a swing band, which is sold out at the Boardwalk. But it was funny. It was in that situation, and I'm a sentimental old bugger, that I long for those days of the Opera House. That musty smell of that building and that theatre
beautiful
designed on. The last time I was actually there, I tried to explain to some nitwit the history of the building. And do you know
I think it's the oldest in
that
Southern
building, and they have no idea of the history or no respect for the history. That's what worries me.
Yeah. No, you're right. It is. I think it is the oldest in the Southern Hemisphere, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
And it's absolutely beautiful building. And it's been restored.
I don't know what they've done to it
years.
now. I'm almost too scared to go there. Not that you could ever book it.
I think it's being redone again. Being redone. It's they've got something from the Lotto. I think that's the last I heard, but it's certainly not available to us. I think it's just becomes
when I do
too
click
pricey,
on that, I get one of my black assistants to phone and speak.
Yes.
I don't think my semi-cultured tones would go down well there anymore.
The tone's not going to go down. And when did you start, or what sort of date-wise, were we talking when you started working internationally, and what kind of...
1980, so it was like 3 years into my career, Gin Game came along. Okay. And, it's kind of weird. The frame there now is, when I applied for the rights, I typed with my manual Remington typewriter, and then I had to fax it somewhere. And then she answered on on ticker tape. Do you know what that is? You know,
I
it's
remember,
helix
like
tape.
punch tape.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you get this thing.
Oh my God.
And
It's like
then you
Braille.
would get, so it was all mail. I mean, I'll never forget. I mean, the script for Gin Game arrived, and the Risick Street Post Office, where it was delivered to, misread it and thought it was something to do with the import of bootleg alcohol. So I had to go and speak to Mr. Van Jaarsveld at Risick Street Post Office to explain to him this was the theatre.
Yeah.
The theatre, not the place we have the concerts out there. This is the place where, we worship the gods of the theatre.
And I can only imagine. You can see if there's any nudity in the Sphinx.
Oh, yeah. I had that too.
Not
me.
Tell me. You're not you yet. Tell me about the most memorable. Talking about that, the most memorable productions that you've produced.
Yeah. Okay. Look, I think that I would lie if I didn't say that beating everyone else from Peter Tureen through to the Market Theatre for the rights for Rocky Horror, that was pretty big for me because it was 1992. Now, if you remember, in 91 was when I was negotiating it, and it was still interesting because Mandela was very clever because he wasn't prepared to say it's fine. He carried on. Yeah. So when you were negotiating, whoever you were talking to was being guided by the current political scenario. Yes. So you would get lots of, we see there's problems again. Oh no, we don't want to come. Oh, we do want to come. In fact, even when we were rehearsing Rocky Horror, Mandela threatened to pull out of the whole thing, and so did the director and the rights holder. Said, look, we didn't sign up for this drama. If Mandela if this is not going to happen, we don't want to have anything to do with South Africa. So read your contract, Colin, and foolishly I signed that. I think I didn't see the word Colin Law. So we went and we opened it, and it was interesting because, and this is why I have a huge empathy for Gary, because when I opened it in Joburg, we opened it in Cape Town initially as a collab with Artscape because it was not a cheap thing to do. But when we transferred into my own theatre. So my own production and my own theatre. And for those watching, if anyone is, I tell you now, being the master of the house, a theatre, and a producer is the crappiest job in the world. Don't think that it's lovely, because it isn't. No. The only thing you do is you don't have to lick the bums of theatre owners. That's the only nice thing.
Theatre owners, yes.
So it has to worry about an actor's sore throat and the smell of the urinals and the lack of toilet paper. Fortunately, I don't think he has that problem at Baywest. Yeah. But it's something else that you don't realize that. Well, you do realize that the total experience for an audience member is everything to do with the combination of the theatre and the
absolutely, it's the whole experience.
Now imagine your Centrestage, wherever, and this is where I think that Gary is so well equipped, is that he's had years of creating venues out of nothing. Going to the Grey, whatever they were.
Yes. Hellenic Hall, whatever.
Hellenic Hall, and then you create magic, and then you also have to make sure. Hello, Mr. Caretaker. The Gen Slew is broken. And you have to. God, please, can someone run to the shop? We're going to run out of Coke. I mean, I don't think people realize that. Especially actors and performers. No. They think that every producer, every theatre owner is rich. That
we're just this and that.
Yeah, and Gary goes off to the yacht club and sails off into.
Yes.
Orders drinks, a glass of red wine in
private
his
suite.
hand.
Yes.
And or gin with Fitch Leeds tonic in it.
Exactly.
I prefer the pink one.
Got the green one here today.
But, so I think, that was also part of the journey. And I've done that. I've done it for the last time ever in my life. I never want to ever
do that.
The theatre, no. It doesn't running
your theatre. Tell us about your theatre. Where was it and when was that?
So the theatre that I ran, I've had a few now. But I'll talk to you about the ones that are the one that was kind of in my life for 10 years and was hugely successful. It was the Victory Theatre in Louis Botha Avenue, Johannesburg, which in those days was, right on the edge of Houghton, so it was pretty upscale.
Yeah. Okay.
And also just kind of almost weird because it was a movie house that was a 320 seater.
Wow.
And
you're talking the old movie houses in that's
so
like
it had. I mean, when I took
Roxy
over, I found the old projectors and reels of old movies and bits of broken movie and God alone knows what else there. And so taking that over, I opened it with a show that we actually cover in Next Level, the show we're doing at Baywest in January. On January the 3rd.
January 3rd.
I'd opened it with Elton John, with Vicky Sampson, John Cecil, a guy called Glenn Swart. And it was very successful. And that was at the time I was negotiating for Rocky.
Glenn Swart.
Yeah,
Glenn Swart's a legend. Oh, he's a great guy.
Yeah. So funny enough, when we auditioned for Rocky Horror, when I brought out the English creatives, we actually, because I had the theatre, I didn't for a moment think that the Victory Theatre would be right for it. And Christopher Malcolm, who was the original Brad Majors in the original stage show, came to direct it for me. And he also was the kind of rights overseer. So he had the direct line to Richard O'Brien. And he walked into the Victory and he said, "This is the place you've got to do the show, Colin. This is just the home for Rocky Horror. It's an old movie house." Yeah. And we ran for a year. We had two runs there. So we had 2 years in that venue.
Wow.
As that combined thing of, master of the house and making sure no one steals from the bar and patrons don't get locked into the venue because they were canoodling behind the curtains. We had that. We never had a break-in. We had breakouts. Like a teenager. I'd get security. There's someone trying to get out of the theatre. And I'd have to hot-footed in a taxi, and there were these very guilty little people looking very
Sorry,
I hope you haven't left a mess behind.
Yes.
I went, "What do you mean, sir?" I said, "You know what I need. Go back, and whatever's there, pick it up. Otherwise, you're not getting out of here." And that happened. It happened because that's Rocky Horror. It's something. Anyway, it went on for 10 years. The landscape changed a bit.
So you had the rights there for 10 years. For Rocky Horror. How long was the Rocky Horror run?
Those ran with me for 10 years, and then I made perhaps a bad judgment to sell it onto the Barnyard because I didn't want to be the oldest producer in the world, hauling out his only hit. By then, I kind of moved on. I'd done a lot of other shows that were successful. Return to the Moon Planet, the Blues Brothers, which I, funny enough, still produce around the world.
Blues Brothers,
the musical based on the movie.
Yeah.
And so I had moved on, and I wanted to let it go. And then I leased it to, I sold it eventually to the owners of the Barnyards, and I think they managed to hang on to it for another 2 years, and then eventually the British rights holders just said, no, we don't want our show to be messed with. And it was, the one thing I had been, and I can very proudly say, in 10 years, we never messed with it. The values of how Rocky Horror works are there, and everyone that thinks it's something they can play around with is mistaken.
You've got to have some sort of respect for that, for something that's so big and such a
well, it's actually it's a little show with big needs.
Yeah. So you, by that, do you mean the actual the casting has to be really, really good, and because there are not many leads, or is it?
No, the thing with the alchemy with, the first key thing with Rocky Horror is it is probably the ungayest show in history, and this is where people get it wrong when they think that it's about a drag queen. No, it's not. It's about this gender confused alien who can do boys and girls. And if you don't believe that for a second, that whoever's playing Frank and Furter isn't
Mm.
totally able to do boys and girls, it fails.
yeah.
The minute you have, and
Yeah.
I'm not going to mention names because one of them actually lives in Port Elizabeth and he might be watching. I mean, my problem is he played it like a panto day.
Yeah,
And you can't do that. You've got to believe that he's actually banging Brad and Janet. If you don't, you don't. And that's the first thing. And then people, and even, funny enough, even the rights owners now who are touring it in England and brought it to South Africa a few years ago again, they've got it wrong again because you've got to capture the B-movie feel. The minute you start getting all high-tech and zhuzh with it, the whole heart of the show. I mean, the spaceship in the original production in 1972 was an actor standing on a chair. They did the whole show with 5 corded mics. I mean, that's how it started its life.
Corded mics as well, dragging them around the stage.
Corded mics, can you imagine? I mean, and doing time warp with a corded mic must have been. Maybe that's why the choreography is all on the left-hand side of the body.
It is.
But, you know, so I think that, and in a way, that was the most valuable lesson for me, is to respect the integrity of shows.
Yeah.
And that's why, you know, through all of my thick and thin and dramas, that I've always been entrusted with intellectual property. I've never had anyone, be it in the art world or in the theatre world, say, no, I'm sorry, you're not looking after my show. Please, stop.
Yeah.
I've always had, out of the shows I've done, I've got to produce them, my versions of it around the world. And I'm very proud of this. I'm not proud of a lot, but I'm very proud of that I think that is the one thing that I really do see the Holy Grail in. And that is intellectual.
Who are the best leads that you had for Rocky, for Frank and Furter and us?
You know, I'll tell you who. It's hard for me because I'm going to out the people I didn't think were very good. Look, if Jeremy Crutchley was a good singer, he would have been the best Frank by far. I love David Dennis. He sang it magnificently, and I loved Craig Abani, funny enough, as Frank, but he didn't do it for me. He was in Peter Turin's recent production of it, he was brilliant because there you've got this real man that you can believe that he does Brad and Janet. And but it's a troubled show. I mean, you know, the minute I can tell you when the casting comes up, who's going to succeed and who's going to fail. Paul Warwick Griffin, who is funny enough the business partner and life partner of Robin Williams' son. He played it for me, but he was very androgynous, you know. And I think. You know, I used to laugh at these butch guys coming with their fishnet stockings and they're staggering in their high heels and staggering even more after they'd had a couple of Clippies and Cokes. And that, you know, that's the whole point of things. This is before we got all woke about, you know, gender identity.
Yes.
And I think that if I was to do it again tomorrow, I would talk to the actors about gender and identity. And if they saw gendered identity, you know, an oak putting ladies' clothes on as a joke, I wouldn't ask them. Because it's that comfort thing, you know. Everyone will laugh when they see, you know, Gino and Colin in fishnet tights and panties in their wife's panties. You know, it's
sure.
That's not how it works.
But Frank and Furter is it's quite aggressive and quite thick. I love that it's a real feel, you know. It's you're right about that be real feel. The be real feel. What you're talking about there is it's that it's not pantomime. It's not pantomime.
Well, you know, there's that fantastic moment. You know, anyone knows Rocky well when he's lost his creation, he's lost Rocky, and Riff Raff has let him go, and he comes on and he's got the cat o' nine tails, and he's flicking it and he's saying, "Where is he? Where is he? Where is my creation?" And Riff Raff is loving being beaten, being whipped. He's saying, he just eventually says, "Sorry, master." I mean, you know, I used to find that chilling because it's so aggressive. Whereas the bonhomie of Frank and Furter being charming,
Yeah.
and it's like the, sort of
Yeah.
the hostess serving arsenic
Yeah.
to her guests at dinner. I used to love
Yeah.
that, and I used to look
Yeah.
for that the whole time. And sadly, I just want to say that it was often missing. You just had to
Yeah.
go. And unfortunately, when you give an
Make a
actor
plan.
a role like Frankenfurter, managing their egos is another
yeah.
story. Because they go on, and people are immediately, the minute the first time the cloak is thrown off their shoulders. And we
Yes.
had the best entrance for him, because he came down a turning revolving staircase. So naturally, when he got down to the bottom and he went, "I'm a sweet transvestite," and threw the cloak off, the audience wet themselves.
Yeah.
Hello.
Such
For
a
an
brilliant.
actor.
It's
For an actor.
such a brilliant.
Oh
song.
no, we are no. I'm not going to take notes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
No, not
Yeah,
tonight.
yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah.
no notes
Oh,
tonight.
they love
No,
me.
yeah. Call me in at 5:00 tomorrow, and I'll maybe I'll.
It's so opposite. What you're talking about now is with actors and with people on stage, it's immediately evident. But as a CEO of a company or a thing, people are always blowing smoke up your ass, and you've got to learn to take that with a pinch of salt. And see what's real. And sometimes it's so difficult for people to see that, and you're absolutely right.
Well, more so in South Africa, and I one of the reasons I love working with new, and I might have to say this, profilers, is my company is 99% black. What I love about this is that you don't have often the frame of references that a lot of white artists are brought up with in this country. So we're not as parochial when it comes. You can take young black actors on very exciting journeys theatrically, and because they're not going to go, I think my mother saw that in 90, or the frame of reference is very different.
You're right.
to
Yeah, I've got that.
what you were brought up with and
history,
and experienced. And I love that, because we are sadly so parochial still, even though we have absolute excellence, world class excellence, especially from people.
Our PE in East London have been little hotbeds of talent for music and theatre. I don't know, maybe when
the Eastern Cape in general has been. I mean, I think the problem is, over the years, I've spoken many times about this, is to try and get Port Elizabeth over its inferiority complex, and not have to remind them that, I'll give you an example. I saw in, I think, 1972 or 73 at the Opera House, Robin Williams and I think Bruce Sanderson in a play called Children of the Wolf. And it was brilliant and way better than the production in Joburg, and better than the production I produced years later. So no, that's there. That's there.
Yeah.
And then I've worked with people like Angie Killian from PE.
Yeah, yes.
Brilliant.
Of course, yes. Yes.
Jace and Thuba.
Yes, Jace and Thuba.
I saw in one of
Donna.
Gary's shows. I ended up taking Thuba came to work for me once, and then Jace I took to Thailand to do some work for me, and of course he was brilliant. And there are many heartbroken Thai ladies to hear that he's now married with children. And these are people that came from this funny little town with an inferiority complex, and I don't. So, you have to, and not a lot has been done to address that. Funny enough, there's always an excuse made, and I found the one antidote for it is in my work, in particular with Thuba. I don't even mention where he comes from anymore. I build the fact that we need to fly him in now into a fee.
Yeah.
I don't go there anymore because, and I certainly rate him probably as one of my top 5 male, well, no, in fact, top 3 male performers in this country. And, this is a guy, it's not that he feels inferior. It's just that we live in this little society where producers don't come to the Hellenic Club and look at show. I mean, if you look at it, I can't remember. I think I saw Wayne Callis in that production. But I mean, out of one production, I've worked with 2 people out of 1 show that I've seen at Centrestage. I mean, that's something, and not little gigs. I mean, Jace headlined a show in a 7-star venue in on New Year's Eve in Chiang Mai in the north of Thailand for me, and and
2 Alex boys.
Yeah, and I think it's just so it's just that I think that one of the things that need to happen for probably beyond my life, because I'm old now, it's going to not end, go on forever, is to actually.
Jace is online. Yeah, he's just saying hello. He's watching.
Oh, hello, Jace. Cool. Did you hear my bit about how many unhappy Thai ladies there are that you're a happily married man?
I'm sure he did.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is that I really believe that if producers engaged themselves more and actually got off their asses and went down and just saw the odd production, just scout, look and see. Yeah. I mean, to give you an example, there's a young guy that people have a lot to say about in Joburg praise, called Daniel Anderson. He's from from East London. It took Amanda Buerta, or I think her name's Buerta or Botma, to bring him up to Joburg. And Joburg behaves like they've discovered him. Yeah. And then he's been playing at the Guild Theatre, selling these little shows around the Cape. And now Joburg is owning the new Wonder Boy. And I want to go, guys, did you go there and find him? Because you didn't. She had to take her money and bring them to Joburg. Yes. And I find that, so you can see, magic. I'm going red in my face, and I did take my blood pressure tablets. We
actually know about Daniel well, because he used to do Elvis from when he was about 6 years old. I think he's been coming to Centrestage shows. And he was amazing. Well,
now he's in the pan. I mean, it's so funny because he's actually in the panto playing a tiny role.
Oh, is he?
In Joburg. And I'm going, are you in the tiny role because you don't want to push him along too fast? Because you're certainly not using him. He gets to sing once in 3 hours of Janice Honeyman. And I'm going, what is this about? And I think the point here is that, and this is where the value of places like Port Elizabeth, it is ultimately a petri dish for young people who if they fail in Port Elizabeth or East London, they can go back to their day jobs without too much humiliation.
Yes.
Now that sounds like a cop-out, doesn't it? But I don't think it is.
Yeah.
Because what happens here is people... There are a lot of actors that I've worked with that are every now and then they cross my mind. I'm going, I wonder what happened to them. And they clearly, they're not there anymore. What happened? And yet, there are, and look, it happens. There's people like Angie Killian, who was a leading lady. Yeah. She's not in theatre anymore. She's working in corporate in London.
Is she? And okay, I don't even know that.
And a beautiful performer. She's done a huge body of work for me. I mean, there are people like Bethany and Dixon, or who's managed to have a married life, babies, and a career. Yes. She's currently in the Adams Family in Cape Town. But so I think that I'm probably getting off the subject here, but I think I'm very passionate about that, and that's why it's a very big honor for me to be doing some work with Gary, who I've admired for a long time. In the ability to find a way to showcase some of the work we do with people like Garth Taylor, and also to take Thuba Myeki, who I believe is one of the finest male singers in this country, and pair him with the legend Vicky Sampson, to find this incredible commonality, the synchronicity in their stories, because the very year and the very month that Thuba was born, Vicky stepped onto a stage for me for the first time in a musical theatre production. And so she's got 34 years of a history in musicals and
the serendipity.
So it's such a fabulous thing to see these two people, and especially for someone like Thuba, to really hold his own against her vocal weight. As I said to you before we came on air, since Donna and Belinda Davids, who are PE connected, I don't think PE will have heard a voice. And the pairing of two voices like Vicky and Thuba together.
Yeah. And I think that Thuba's at the right time in his life now as well. He's also just he's matured in that way, and he's moved forward. And now he can actually showcase that talent properly. You know, he's in that spot, and I can just see he's focused. He's in the gym. You know, he's a hard worker. Thuba is an amazing hard worker.
And you know, the best thing about him is that he is, first of all, his ability is boundless, but he is so decent to work with.
Yeah,
he really is, and especially now that he's learning when to pull back and say no and not be everything to everyone. I think that he's immense. You know, the challenge is, you know, I keep promising Gary that I won't tempt him away to too much abroad. Thank God, Thuba loves Port Elizabeth or Quebec.
Yes, he does. Well, he's got Georgia here, you know, his girlfriend, so that's gonna.
So for me, one of the most exciting things is actually going to be going forward, if we can carry on doing things with Centrestage, is the fact that I don't do Centrestage style shows. I mean, the stuff that I do is kind of intended for other markets. So the whole idea of the Vicky and Thuba thing is to be able to take them into my Middle Eastern markets, and also to into touring little theaters with something which is special and personal, and grow it as a little brand, and then also take it onto the corporate clients, which, as you and I were discussing, are so important to our ecology of staying alive.
Definitely.
And he's got all of that equipment, and the best part of it, he's not a pain in the ass to work with. Hello, I mean, goodness me.
He's amazing.
That's the subject.
Tell us about. There we go. Gary's got that the poster up there now, so you can see that. And tell us a little bit about what people can expect from this show, Colin.
Look, I think, to use the big word synchronicity is a good one, because what it is meant to do is to take two people, a guy from Alice in the Eastern Cape, and Vicky from Mitchell's Plain, and go,
wow,
here are two people that couldn't be more diverse. Vicky, a coloured lady from Mitchell's Plain, and a East Coast guy from Alice, finding each other vocally, first of all. So this isn't a joke a minute show, but it's about guys. We have to blow the roof off entrance 1 at Baywest. We want people to go out so enriched with vocal enrichment, and that for me, if we can succeed in delivering that, and on top of that, explore some of the great songs ever written, with a few jokes, but jokes out of why are we singing things rather than singing comedy songs. We leave those to you, Gino. But
it's not the Gino show.
But so the takeout for Next Level is to take two performers to the next level. Vicky has an interesting career because she was a winner of Follow That Star, and then she went and sang behind. I mean, the first time I saw her was she was standing behind the bass player. I was doing a corporate up in Mubata, and I went down to try and get dinner, and I didn't get dinner, but I got a singer and a brandy and coke, and there she was. And then I said to her, please, when do you come to Joburg? She said, I'm coming next week. I said, please come and audition for me. I'm doing some stuff. I'm going to put you in musicals. She said, no, I'm not interested in musicals. I said, please come. And she came and she auditioned for me, and she sang Memory with her back to me. It wasn't a great first audition, but I put her into this musical show called Just the Way You Are, which was a very nice Billy Joel compilation show.
I was going to say, is it Billy Joel? Yeah,
and she just blew the audiences away. You know, Gina, I tell a quick story that it's the first time I stood I had to hold a door open for Vicky on that first night, so I could see where she was going. And when she was waiting, the song that she sang was a Billy Joel song called Entertainer, which we do in the show.
Yeah.
And she was standing next to me and holding my hand and shaking. And she stepped out, and the curtain was enough for me to see the follow spot hit her. And she went on and she started singing. And then she did the second section of the song has her gospel rave in it. Do you know, true as God, I have never seen an audience rise to a man and give her a standing ovation on her first entrance. And I knew then I had something really special there. And of course, then I wasn't wrong. People sniffed around, and then a producer told her that she's wasting her time and energy on stage, and he should record her. And luckily for her, there was this composer called Alan Lazar, who was the keyboard player for Mango Groove, and he'd written the song called An African Dream. And luckily, he gave it to Vicky to do.
Sure.
Incredible. So the show explores that thing and part of it. And how do you parallel Vicky and Thuba's lives? Well, actually, quite easily, because their musical tastes are not totally dissimilar. And in fact, I mean, it's quite charming as to know what Thuba's real influences are. I'm not going to give that away. That is so cute. You'll want to order whipped cream to eat him with. In the metaphorical sense, of course.
Yes, of course. I see Jay saying Thuba's probably the best person I've worked with. Such a talent, says Jay. And of course, they knew each other from school as well, because they were at school together. They were the best mates at school.
Jace, your ears might have been burning. I'm talking about the next time you're here to do something nice and butch for my my Saudi market, who don't really like seeing women on stage, with you and Thuba. So we've got to get you away from breastfeeding in wherever you are to come and be an artiste on the highest caliber with me again.
You've had lots of relations with some of these top artists. Tell us about some of them, Colin.
Well, I'm lucky that I have really good ones with people like Bonnie Tyler. I've produced her a few times. Still do a fair amount with her. With Alison Moyet, who I have a huge admiration for. She's a singer that stood the test of time. And then I've had a couple of interesting ones. I've had a singer who I'm in no rush to ever work with again, called Jennifer Rush. Jennifer Airbrush, in fact. Sadly, I couldn't sustain her coke addiction long enough to keep her to finish a tour in South Africa. So she left me with R1 million in the red. About 12 years ago.
Jennifer.
After she couldn't crush up enough Ritalin to get her through a day.
So
don't worry, you won't get sued for libel. She's retired, forcefully retired. No, not with rocks around her ankles, I promise. But I think she realized
rings of ice. Rings of ice around her ankles.
No, I used to wind up and sing to her in the car. Ice your ring. Ice.
And you've had decade-long relationships with these people. I mean, some of the guys.
Yes, I mean, look, people like Vicky.
PJ Powers.
Yeah, PJ.
Yeah.
PJ. And I have sailed up and down the Zambezi and many funny places around the world, Thailand. I mean, these are great people. I mean, I tend to, when an artist gets my respect, I'll do anything to work with them again. Anything. When they lose my respect, I'll do everything never to work with them again. So I know that sounds terribly arrogant.
To work with anybody. Yeah.
No, definitely not Jennifer. Oh, suddenly my PTS has come back. What program am I on? This is so brilliant.
Good shakes. Oh no! So now you introduced Thuba to the corporate market up there in Joburg. How does that sort of work? What are the take us through what you would do with an artist, you know?
Well, the thing I've learned very quickly, in fact, after the second gig with, I mean, we've done. Look, to understand, I do pretty high end ones. So substance, and
huge.
I don't do the little. I don't do these. I don't do the subsistence ones anymore. I don't have the patience for that.
We leave those for us, please. Colin.
No, I don't. No, that wasn't meant like that at all. Because you do some, I wouldn't mind Spa, thank you very much, or Aspen, or whatever those are. But
Yeah.
So I think the one thing I've done, and absolutely after the second gig, is I stopped even referring to him as to where he is from. I just I just add the few thousand rand it is to bring him here to do it.
Yeah.
Because the minute you brand someone as being from, and this is Cape Town, of course, then everyone thinks everyone from Cape Town's perfect. I don't even bring it up.
Yes.
So he comes in and he does the job. I mean, one thing we've wanted to do is to make sure that he is on the road to being paid, as well as the Lloyds and the list of guys that I guess have the market as male singers here. Because he certainly offers every bit more value than they do. Yeah. So that's going well. And I think that while and you'll come see us, Gino.
Absolutely.
Is that I think what we're trying to do is get him into a more sophisticated kind of performance. Not to take him out of what he does, and not to say that what he does anywhere else is not sophisticated. It's just not what I do in my market, So for example, I would take bits of a Centrestage show, but I'm not sure whether I could take the whole thing. Not sure. I'm not saying I wouldn't. I mean, I probably if they wanted an ABBA evening, I'd do an ABBA show, with them. It's
Sure.
But I think that the idea is to use to groom his potentials to be able to pop him on a 7-star cruise for a week. When they wanted someone to fill in on stage, because I know he wouldn't want to go forever. Put him in my principal markets are Thailand and the Middle East. Okay. So to put him on in the desert in Saudi, perfect. He's got a nice healthy image, and that would work really well. And I think that I need that. So that's what my 2025 aspiration, my manifestation for him is to try and build that up for him and really give him a push ahead of a very lackluster market. So I'm not sure how much casting you do away from Port Elizabeth, but we're very hard pushed, especially in the male market. We just don't have them anymore. We just don't have them. I mean, even the people you could kind of fall back on, like a Khan Morby from Parlotones, he doesn't live here anymore. He lives in Amsterdam. Who's in for a 22,000 rand aeroplane ticket to get him in to sing? Not going to happen. So I'm very excited about him, and I'm excited about his bravery. I mean, I'll give you an example, and he does this in the show. Before the movie came out, I asked him to do Defying Gravity for me, and he did it about 2 weeks before the movie opened. With a whole lot of aerial acts going on around him, and he was magnificent. When he got over because you see, Thuba doesn't have. He's not a show queen like me. He doesn't have a Adina Menzel Defying Gravity frame of reference. So to get him to trust my belief in him enough to open his mouth and belt that mother of a song out was quite something to watch. And he'll do it again. In next level at Baywest on the 3rd of January.
You see the message there from Mark Banks. He wants to know.
Yes, Mark. Mark. It has, and they want to cast you as the Little Mermaid. I believe that you might be. I'm not sure whether it's the Little Mermaid or the evil octopus, but I know they're looking for something that will tour.
The octopus, yes. We need that guy. Well, tell us about the kinds of shows that you do as well. What is your preference?
My preference is all nude male reviews. I'm doing the casting. A lot of it is tongue tip tasting, but I'm casting at the moment, and I think by the time I hit 70 in 2 years' time, I'll have the perfect uncut version for you.
Excellent.
Now, what I like to do? No. Let me not.
Yes. What do you love? What is your?
I I love plays that are beautifully written. When I do them well, I win awards.
Yeah.
When I do them badly, they close after a week. Musicals, I don't know. I get involved in them a fair amount. I have a partnership in the UK, and I battle with them because they are so expensive now. You know, you've got to have. I don't have that nerve anymore. You know, to just put these things on and hope and pray that you're good enough. You're good enough payroll on Friday. I don't have that nerve anymore. I have to be as safe as you ever can be, which is never safe.
Yes.
No, so
It's
I mean,
never safe in the industry. It's true.
I don't anymore have any wish to do the South African production of. I don't.
Okay.
I don't want to be the general manager. Which anyone that produces a overseas brand, all you are is a general manager, and you get the last 10% if you're lucky of the profit. So I look hard the whole time. Occasionally,
so
I come
overseas.
Up with
Who's some of the biggest corporate clients, sort of, and is that the overseas ones, is it the local ones?
No, I mean, look, I've got
Okay.
the Mandarin group in Thailand now, and but in South Africa, Liberty, Motus, is one of my big ones. What I've also learned to do, because I don't really like worrying about the table arrangements and whether the salmon is on or off. I've partnered with some really great event agencies, and I managed, fortunately, in the case of like Thuba, to make them fall in love with him too. So there's a spin-off business from that, you know, that I am now providing them the talent. And the difference is that
so important.
So I think that those are the really big ones in terms of South Africa. And I think you might have found this in the past, and since COVID, many of those guys that used to do don't do. So if you remember in 2008, everyone until 2008, everyone did a Christmas party. If you didn't do a Christmas party, you were no one. Now, I wonder how many Christmas parties have you done this year?
Not a lot. Yeah.
And I don't take it personally because very few people are doing them. And I think that since COVID, so much has changed. The whole, particularly in Saudi and in Dubai, what has happened is so much is online. So much is you have to reinvent the whole thought of it. I'm a bit stuck on the first night. You have a welcome party, then you have a gala dinner, and then you have interesting speakers, and then you have an afternoon of team building. I'm still kind of locked in that in a way. Do I want to unlock myself? I'm not sure. I'll leave it to you. Because
thank you.
Because
I don't know.
As I said to one of my team members, there can be nothing more horrifying than watching this raddled old white man running around a venue, checking to see if the starters are going to arrive, and so I've got to get myself to a position where I can be more administrative rather than just getting up and doing. And in that way, hand on some kind of raddled old legacy. Do you allow yourself to do that? I mean, do you always feel that urge to? You don't like to delegate too much, or do you? No, I used to be the worst. I mean, I would be the guy standing behind the sound engineer saying, "It's too loud. You're late." The lighting guy, "No, it's too bright." No, I've actually got myself into, thank God, appointed normally about 5 o'clock in the afternoon of whatever I'm doing, saying, "You know what, Colin, have you done your best? Yes.
Yeah.
Are you ready to hand it over? Yes." And you know what? Ever since I've stopped doing that, I've never had a major disaster. So I think
you have let go.
Yeah, it's that ability to know that you've got to get something to a point before you hand it over is the trick.
Yeah, and do you play the conceptual role then with your corporate? So you
totally.
You start from scratch.
So, I mean, I don't want to be an artist manager. I don't want to be. I want to be someone that can facilitate work for talent, and look after it, that rather than being someone that has to worry. I've just had it now where I've managed something and I've hated it because all I'm doing is chasing the money and dealing with artists and what they need, and I don't want to do that anymore. Been there, done that, got the t-shirts.
Your own thing. You want to do your thing.
Yeah.
And you're handling Garth Taylor at the moment, and I saw him quite a few years back, and I was blown away. He was just I think he did something at the Boardwalk probably about 10 years ago now. I went there with Philippa on a whim. I can't remember if it was Michelle Brown or who actually had him there at the time. But man, he blew me away with his energy and the fact his band was so tight. Tell us about this, the Garth Taylor and the journey with him.
So Garth's been an interesting chap in my life. He's been around with me since about 2000. I did manage him for a while, and then. And he did really well. We did well together, but even then, it wasn't really for me to be. I'm a guy. Full disclosure that anything beyond 7:00 in the evening is borrowed time. Not because I have a vodka problem, but because I just have an early morning energy. I don't have.
Okay.
So I can't do the gig thing, and I can't sit at the door making sure that people are paid. I can't do that. So anyway, we didn't work together for a while. Then I took him to Thailand, and he was very successful there. And then when he just about 7 months ago, he had some management issues. The guy that was looking after him got very ill. And the one thing I've always said about Garth is I think he is one of South Africa's finest singer, songwriter.
Definitely.
Without a doubt. And interestingly enough, just done a project for me based on the life of Carl and Bertha Benz, the inventors of the motor car, which he wrote the original music for, and it's totally stunning. It's like full on Broadway style music, and this is a guy that never goes to the theatre. So
talented guy. Totally. I saw in the keys he was just so good and accomplished.
So I think that I've always been an admirer of that ability. And I think that one of the challenges with Garth is that his biggest value is his songbook. If his songbook was covered by even just two artists or two songs, he would have made a lot of money. He's written some songs that are so worthy of that he sings that other people could cover brilliantly. And I think that that is one of the reasons why I've always wanted to kind of hang in as he enters into his third decade of being a performer, to see what way would be forward. Because, singers go through these funny periods in their life. Your 30s are when you consolidate your wealth and you hopefully get married, have children, buy a house, debt-free. And then you get your 40s, which should be your solid years. And then you get into your 50s. Then you need to be consolidating and do what next, because you definitely don't want to be Johnny Mathis staggering around at nearly 90, looking, bless his heart, looking like he's not sure where he is.
Who's singing? The guy that does Grease? Grease, man. I can't. He sang the theme track from the Grease movie.
Thank you, Valley.
Frankie
But
Valli,
the few guys that you just wonder is how can it be so bad? But anyway, back to Garth. Not that I'm not assuming that I'm not saying that Garth's like that, but now you've got an artist that has senior status in his career, and he needs to maximize that, and also understand that in fact live performance is king now. Being a recording artist means F all.
No.
I've been talking about this morning with him. Hello. I've got. I can tell you, people laugh when I know what Bonnie Tyler gets out of Spotify.
Yeah.
And it's terrifying.
Next to nothing. That's been.
For her, it's still pretty good because primarily because it's totally the clips of the heart. But
yes, of course.
I'm telling you that what Spotify has done in a way is kind of ruined things.
Yeah.
in many ways, because it's taken that. Look, for certain artists like Garth, having a CD to sell at your shows, his fans
Yes.
will still buy CDs.
Yeah.
But generally, I mean, hello, if you're, how are you making your money unless you're Taylor Swift?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that
Unless you've got
also
that
getting
millions and
artists
millions.
to revisit live. I wish in Joburg we could build more live venues. We just don't have them, and no one has the appetite to, and we're lazy. And whereas Cape Town, you can put together a week of gigs, and they're not within a kilometre of each other.
Yeah.
That's the amazing thing.
that will
From
close
Paternoster to Stellenbosch, you can find credible gigs that are structured. I mean, and you can go and do a credible show.
What can we expect at Garth's show? If you want to come to Garth Taylor show, 28th of December.
Yeah, all of his hits,
There you go.
plus the material from his new album, which is stunning. And then there's a lovely surprise coming up. I don't think I'm, unless Gary says I should tell him that,
Yes, you can. He says, absolutely.
One of the things I wanted him to revisit, because he does anyway, Islands in the Stream, which was his great surprise hit that he did because he guested on Idols, and a young singer called Melanie Lowe was on that, and he sang Islands in the Stream, the Dolly Parton Kenny Rogers duet with her, and it was a huge hit. So I said, you know what? Well, let's do it in PE with the local. And Tara is, I always get the surname, Tara Jane Stern.
Tara Jane Stern, yes.
Is
Tara
going
Stern.
to guest with him and cover the song with him. So that's like really nice. But there is all of the hits and lots of new ones. Garth doesn't do covers, so he's not going to sing Jolene.
Or Alice.
Oh, Alice, yeah. No, we'll leave Alice to other people.
Tuba should really do it, I think.
Yeah, because it's from Alice.
Yes.
And who the fuck's Alice anyway?
Oh, absolutely. And then so it's Tuba and Vicky, which is going to be, I mean, that is an amazing combination. And then, of course, Garth is and he's got that soul. I describe his stuff sort of as a soul pop sort of mix, but there's something else in it as well. I can't describe it.
It's smooth Bruno Mars.
Yeah, it's Bruno Mars. Yeah, I suppose.
Isn't it? He's an interesting guy. I don't forget once Sunday Times reviewed his album, and the writer said, Garth has got the most pleasant buzzsaw kind of voice. I think what he meant was it's a sound that you don't think you should like, but you really end up loving. And I think that what has happened since the Wire days is that his voice has got a maturity, and the songwriting has also grown from broken hearts to healed hearts. So I find particularly the new material quite warm. There's still a lot of songwriters write songs about getting dumped.
Yeah, but pain.
But I think that what is good is the quality of the songwriting. And if you appreciate, if words matter to you, then you're going to have a lovely evening with Garth. He doesn't do mindless music, and it's just lucky that many of his songs that aren't mindless or never mindless are well known to people.
Yeah. No, and Algoa has playlisted the song as well. I'm not sure which one it is. Forevermore. They've playlisted that on high rotation, so they're going to be hearing that coming across our airwaves here as well. Okay, so Garth's in, and obviously Vicky and Tuba. Now, we just want to find out a little bit more about your Thailand international operations. Sounds like you've got some sort of like a Dr. Evil lair over there, and you point and say, aim that at the moon. That at the moon.
Look, the whole so Thailand. I was born out of actually my love for world music. I started. I found in the streets of Bali, in Indonesia, a world music band called Saharaja, And when I found them, I said to them, I'll be back in 2 weeks and I'm taking you to South Africa to record you. And I did. They came here and they recorded and they toured. And out of that, funny enough, became this relationship on events with Bali. And I had a client, it was Absa Bank, who said, I'll be doing something in Bali. Please find us an opera company. And I went to Thailand and I knew vaguely a singer that sang opera. And he introduced me to the great maestro Somto. And I put together the first classic crossover group out of just opera singers there, and took them to Bali, and it was hugely successful. And then I went back to Thailand, and I went, you know what? I want to get my own of this. And I found a group of 5 singers at the university, great singers. In fact, they came to PE once. And I created this pop opera thing, which they're now huge. They've changed their name. They're called Favera, and they still tour around Asia. But out of that, because I had that as my startup, I got a lot of corporate clients. In fact, I had 11 top-end clients, 8 of which were luxury hotel brands, and the other 3 or 4 were companies like Rolex and good brands. Wow. Of course, then along came COVID, and that took out almost everybody. Some of them have never come back. So, unfortunately, to stay alive, to keep a business going in Thailand, for every one Western person, you have to employ 2 Thais. So to keep it through through the whole of COVID, and bearing in mind that Thailand came out of COVID last. It was the last place to open their borders properly.
Oh man, yes.
Was impossible. We really struggled, but I've managed to edge it back slowly but surely. But do I want to? But of course, you know what happened to all of us when we had to sit at home for 2 years. We fell in love with our dogs and our 4 walls, and now the idea of traveling gives me the shits. I prefer going.
I don't want to go out.
I prefer going now to that sand pit where you can't get cocktails or anything around the word cock, called Saudi Arabia, where I do a lot of work there. I did created something called in Al Ula, which is beautiful. If you ever find the desert beautiful, I guess it is, but a very sacred place. And I did something with a South African group of musicians called Candlelit Classics, which is now an annual standard there. Of course, now everybody is in Saudi, because I think by this time next year, they're going to have their first, what are called wet zones. So you can really buy alcohol in diplomatic villages, but they're going to have hotels, but like they do in Qatar, where you can pay 1,500 Rand for a eat and drink as much as you want buffet. And go into bars with paper on the windows covered up. But I think that will happen in Saudi. So once you get past, when you have to bury your integrity and forget about what was seen as a murderous regime, you have to understand a little bit about it and be a whore and go and earn the dollars. That's bluntly.
And how do you find the time to sort of split yourself up in so many different things? I mean, are you
when you're a pensioner and you don't have a pension plan, you find it.
You just have to. You mean
you're too young, Gino. Remember, you asked me that question when you're 20 years older. Or 30 years older.
20 years old. When I hit 70.
It's in a way, it's a blessing, because I can't imagine what I'd be like if I didn't have to get up and do something every day. Because I don't have, knitting blankets for Mandela as a hobby, or or macrame, or my garden is fine. But I pay other people to look after that. I just admire it and lie to people about it. But finding time is an interesting one, because you have to. I mean, ask Gary. Is his thing every day to get up and be worrying about, actually other people?
He's gone away. He doesn't care. He just phones me when it's 12 o'clock at night.
But I mean, the reality is, in corporate, I mean, it's so weird, because I did a corporate where someone came up to me and said to me, "I won't be seeing you again." I went, "Why? Are you leaving?" He went, "No, I'm retiring." And I said, "Oh God, you must be sad." He said, "Not at all. I've been planning it for the last 5 years." In fact, he said the last holiday, I didn't have much of a holiday because my wife and I finished off our retirement home, and I'm moving off to Park Rennie.
My word.
And I went, you know what? My reaction was kind of, what the fuck? What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Because it's not like
Damn
you're an
you,
intellectual
man.
giant. But,
Yeah.
You've got to admire that in the last part of
yeah.
your life, your last 48 paydays,
Yeah.
your last 48 months of paying, that you were fixated on getting what you saw as
Jeez,
your rainy days sorted out.
Yeah.
Your end days. I can think of nothing more horrifying.
No, I don't want to think about the end days either. It's just
Yeah.
like,
Well, I mean,
I don't know.
what are they for retired people?
Yeah.
Unless you go on
That's
to
such
another
an-
career, when you're
Yeah.
going to go and sit somewhere, what are you waiting for? Your grandchildren?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm
Well,
not being.
as
Listen,
musicians,
I'm being skittish here about this.
but
for me-
as producers and musicians, and we're 2 paychecks away from standing at the robots with a piece of paper.
And that's lucky if it's only 2 paychecks. Normally with guys, it's not even one.
Okay, so to finish off, then, Colin, your proudest moment as a producer. What gave you the biggest kick?
I think being able to give the middle finger to all those people that thought I would never ever resurface, never ever still be there.
Yeah.
It gives me a great pleasure when I walk into a place and someone looks at me, like, first of all, initially like I'm dirt and they're handy Andy, and then they realize that their handy Andy ain't going to clean up this dirt. And so I know that sounds vengeful, but there's a lot in my life I'm not particularly proud of. There's been lots of missteps, but there's a hell of a lot I've been proud of. And part of that is really enabling and finding a wonderful talent and giving them that push along. Yeah. And many of them have taken it and now are all over the world now. And I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, for sure. It's an incredible skill to be able to do that, and also to collect those relationships that you've had over the years and keep them going. Because, like you say, if everybody's got to make missteps in their life, everyone's got to do it, but it's how you pick yourself up afterwards and how you carry on. In your case, I think the relationships that you've stuck with are brilliant relationships. Like I see how Thuba speaks of you, and I see Jace here. Also, he says he's coming back again. He's in for that Saudi thing. He says he's got the suspenders already. I think he's putting them on.
No, you won't do that there. No, I don't want to go. I don't want to be beheaded.
Fair enough, I suppose.
because the work I do is directly for him. That one.
Okay. Oh, really? Okay.
Well, I hope he doesn't watch Gino's spot.
But no.
No, it might be because maybe he does look for G spots.
Oh, we never know. You could go online, check it out. Yeah. But yeah, those relationships are so are so important, and also that makes you who you are in the end. Your relationships,
Yeah. Look, the one thing I think I've never been in my whole life is the most popular guy on the block. When I'm popular, it's normally through expediency. Do I wish if I had my life again?
You mean with you?
Sorry?
You mean it's love or hate with you?
Totally.
Is it?
Totally. And the people
really?
that hate me the most, the people that don't even know me. So that's also fine.
Yeah.
But I think for me, it's kind of weird in our life. Everybody loves Gino. Not everybody loves Colin. Everybody loves Gary Hemmings. Well, I've never heard a single bad word about Gary or you.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying is that you have to accept in life that sometimes you're born an acquired taste, and that has to be okay with you. So you can't look to the lovies for affirmation.
Yeah.
You can't. If you do that, you're going to actually just make yourself more miserable. Do I want to be on everyone's opening night list? No, because if I hate your show, I want to be able to walk out of it. I don't need the feedback.
But there's an honesty in that too, I mean, so we what you see is what you get then,
I try that best because I am simply a working girl from a railwayman father and a housewife mother. So
Okay.
I'm not Colin Mackenzie Law,
Yes.
from the
Okay.
from the right side of the tracks.
For the royal, with the royal blood. So
Yeah.
so you say railwayman? Is that your dad? Because
Yeah.
my grandfather was a wheel tapper. And was he
No,
doing
my
that
father
too?
was an electrician.
Oh, right.
And you know the punishment that universe gave him. He died from collagen's disease, and when they did the post-mortem, he found his lungs were full of the iron filings from the railway tracks.
Gee,
This man. And bless him, he gave me a work ethic. And as you know, those railwaymen, the wheel tappers. I mean, remember we used to listen to them. They would go. You would hear them when you would go slowly out of a station, and you'd hear that tapping sound. And the thing is, because they were artisans, they were not always respected by the foreman.
Yes.
Yet they were so important.
Yes. Well, my grandfather also, he was the guard on the train for the Queen and for the King and the princesses, when they came out in 45. So he was very important there.
Unfortunately, when you wax lyrical about South African railway services, you looked, because you're a white man going on about something which was so exclusively white. But boy, could we use them. I tried to tried to renew my unrenewable youth by going on a train to Durban. And the only thing I got was it broke down outside Michael House. And I had to phone a friend and say, "Hi, can I come? I need to come across the. Can you meet me on the side of the road? Because I could literally see the gates of the Michael House just by lounging." And he said, "I'm not in at Michael House now. Can't you ask the train to take you through to Pietermaritzburg?" I mean, what part of broken down don't you understand? And true as God, this frigging train stuck there, and they ran out of food and everything. Eventually, they managed to get us off there, but we were in like premier class, so the rest was the masses.
Yes,
so
class.
These white entitled bitches would rush past these toying people because the train had broken down to a little one combi, and it's astonishing that our rail services were that amazing thing. And my father was so proud of his job. I'm sure your grandfather also got the free passes on the railways. Go on holiday. My father would tell you exactly what the wheel tappers heard that wheel's not good. That train, there's a problem there.
Yes, I know. But Colin, before we wrap it up now, just one more thing. In your future, your bucket list, what have you still got to do? What do you still want to do?
I want to be the person that takes Thuba into an international market and gives him his wealth in his 30s, the balance of his 30s, and ensure that he stays grounded and part of the community that's been so good to him. I want to carry on building my youth theatre company. It's giving me the most pleasure to give young actors consistent work, and there's a couple of shows that I'm going to do. I'll carry on servicing the markets I do as long as I can get on an aeroplane, and sometimes have to hope that I'll get upgraded.
You always ask though, just in case.
Absolutely. And God help them, because the supply of Moe and Cristal is flattened.
Oh, really?
I am so common, Gino.
I love it.
Cannot take me anywhere. If there's free caviar and champagne, you can forget
in
it.
the pockets.
No. Well,
Toothpaper plates.
Down the throat.
Gary and I waltz through priority, whether we've got it or not. We always do, and they always let you through,
No. But thank you for this, Gino.
Thank you, Colin. Thank you for your time. Thanks for spending a bit of time.
Looking forward to seeing you. I hope you'll be around.
I'll be around for sure.
And I just want to say one thing finally, if I may, just about Centrestage and Gary and what he does there. I think it's as I said earlier, it's so hard to really, really understand the degree of focus and sacrifice that someone like Gary makes to do what he does in essentially quite a small market, because it's really, other than the corporates away from there, it's East London and Port Elizabeth. And I think that he's done an amazing thing. And you know what? He's done it finding great people. The great late Mike Barwood, rest in peace,
Oh, of course.
2 years ago,
Oh,
was
man.
Gary
I miss
introduced
him
me to
so.
him.
I miss him
And he
so.
was the custodian of every. In fact, there's a show that's on tour still for me, Mr. Hemi Smender, that he designed.
Yeah.
And that introduction was thanks to
Gary.
Gary. He introduced me to him.
Yeah, Mike
And
Bond,
he,
absolute
for
legend.
10 years, he was my artist until he died. And
Yeah.
I miss him. So he's everywhere. I mean,
Yeah.
he's
Yes.
almost kind of spooky, but he's
Oh, me.
everywhere in my
Me
life.
too. I've got this. I've even got my own coffee brand which he designed, which he loved the coffee, you know, and so we're selling it at the venue now, which is fantastic with all Mike Bowles
Now
designs.
there's
and
the
so
son
I
of
love
Port
it.
Elizabeth, and he always. I used to say to him, Mike, you've got to charge more, and he would go, "No, man." I was saying,
Oh man,
please, do you understand that your posters? And I sent him one day a picture of something he designed for me in Thailand, and he couldn't believe it was on a billboard. You know, I said to him, "You've got to believe. You know, you've got to believe in yourself."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sadly, he never did.
Yeah. No.
We've got Garth coming on in 4 minutes.
All right, we've got
Okay.
Garth coming on in 4 minutes as well, because we got.
All right, off you go.
Garth, but
Goodbye.
You know, thank you so much,
Thank
Colin.
you.
You've been
Take
absolute legend, and we'll see you when you're down.
Thank
Fantastic.
you. Take care, and thank you,
Cheers,
Gary.
cheers. Pleasure,
Bye.
man. Ciao.
Relax, sit down. Coming out of PE town. Don't drink, find a shot. Never mind your liver, get to Gino's spot.
Gino spot.
Get to Gino's spot.
Gino spot.
Have a laugh, have a giggle, and exercise your middle. Have a Gino shot.